Wow, we have a big crew today. Christina, are you ready?
I am sure ready.
Awesome. Well, we will get started while people are still trickling in. Our use cases won't start for a few minutes, but we're going to dive in and get going here. So we appreciate everybody joining today. Thank you and welcome to this presentation on Microsoft Copilot for 365, where we will be demonstrating some great use cases for finance. In fact, we're about to show you some demos today that can be applied to really any data or analytic reporting needs. However, to stick with the theme today, we're going to be using a financial sample that we've downloaded from our Microsoft Learn website. And we're going to be utilizing that financial sample to cover a fictitious product sales information across multiple regions over time. So this is the second session in an 8-part series that runs weekly until the end of April. If you've missed the first one or can't attend them all, they will be recorded so that you can view them later. My name is Nick Aquino, and I'm a cloud endpoint technical specialist and also one of our Copilot champions in the modern workspace, covering healthcare and life sciences for customers. I'm here today with Christina Tillbrook. Christina, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. So my name is Christina Tillbrook, and I'm a Senior Intelligence Technical Specialist here at Microsoft. I specialize in the health and life sciences sector. In my role, I am dedicated to empowering organizations and with the tools and knowledge they need to thrive in an ever-evolving landscape of data analytics. Specifically, I focus on fostering education and providing support for Power BI and Fabric, two cutting-edge platforms that revolutionize how data is harnessed and utilized. My expertise lies in working with large pharmaceuticals and medtech companies, and it's really great to be here. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Christina. We also have Mike Giannotti running point on the Q&A. So feel free to ask questions as we go. Your mics have been muted, cameras have been turned off just so that we can get through the content. Mike's going to be monitoring the chat. And if there's any questions that he can't get to in real time, we're going to save about 10 minutes at the end of this session to go over some Q&A. So thank you again and welcome. So our agenda doesn't really look like it, but it's actually very packed with a full list of topics that we're going to be covering in our discussion and demo of use cases. We're going to be starting off talking about what Copilot is, go over what it isn't. We'll discuss our use cases, which is a day in the life, and then we're going to follow up with Q&A and then provide you some next steps and resources so that you can go and explore on your own. So let's dive in. So throughout history, with the right tool in the right hands, it's always sparked transformation. And from moving water across hundreds of miles of ancient aqueducts to putting the world's knowledge at our fingertips, the advent of smartphones, these tools have changed our lives. And now we're seeing a potential in the great next shift, which is the new era of AI. The shift isn't coming a few years down the road or even a few months. Your opportunity to lead in this new era of AI is right now. It's one of the most exciting shifts of our generation, and we, along with other leaders, are seeing this impact take shape across 3 key dimensions: for individuals, for entire teams, and across every single industry. And Microsoft has been extremely busy building copilots into many of the end user facing products that we support today. For today's demonstration, we're going to be focusing largely on the modern work area. This is where we have Copilot in Excel, Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, and many other Microsoft 365 applications. We're also going to be focusing on the data and analytics space, which is where Power BI lives, powered by Fabric, which is the data and analytics platform for this new era of AI. So what is Copilot? Copilot for Microsoft 365 is an AI-powered tool that integrates with the Microsoft 365 apps to enhance productivity. It combines the power of large language models with your data in the Microsoft Graph, which is your chats, your emails, calendars, meetings, OneDrive, SharePoint, and more. You guys get the idea. It combines the power of the large and incorporates them into the Microsoft 365 apps that you know and love. Copilot is accessed through natural language, so you can ask questions and provide instructions just like you would if you were speaking to a friend or a colleague. It's built on top of Microsoft's comprehensive approach to security, compliance, privacy, and responsible AI. And because it's incorporated into the same Office apps that you use today, you know that it provides a secure and compliant way to work with generative intelligence. Your data is your data, and Microsoft does not train on your data. Copilot for Power BI is a part of Microsoft Fabric, which is the data platform for the era of AI. And Fabric is a single unified product that takes care of everything an enterprise needs for analytics, from the data lake all the way to the business user in Office. So let's talk about what Copilot is not. So while Copilot enhances productivity, it does not replace human analysis. It's a tool. It is not a substitute for critical thinking. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is also, it's not a standalone product, but rather it's integrated into the Microsoft 365 apps, providing you with generative AI capabilities that will make you more efficient and productive with your everyday work. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is not a replacement for business processes, but rather it can be customized and extended to work the way that you need it to. Copilot responds based on input and context, but it does not anticipate your needs or your intentions. So it's extremely important that you have clear communication and instruction for the Copilot prompts. And while Copilot provides great starting points, users may need to customize generated content to match their exact requirements. We have a saying at Microsoft called trust but verify. Just as you wouldn't blindly copy and paste information from a website into a document and share that document without validating the information, it's also important that you verify the information received from a generative AI tool. They're not perfect. They do make mistakes, so trust but verify. Christina, over to you.
Thank you, Nick. So for today, we're going to be talking about the day in the life of a financial analyst. So from here, we're going to be talking about how we're building data, transforming data, visualizing data, and communicating that data. So starting with our case study, it's about financial performance analysis, where we are presenting a case study demonstrating the application of data analysis techniques. So we're looking at analyzing financial performance metrics such as profitability, showcasing how insights drive strategic recommendations for improvements. Following our analyst, our financial analyst, we're going to highlight their role in deciphering complex financial information. And in the building and transforming data, we're going to discuss processes for collecting raw financial data, exploring various sources such as financial statements, marketing data, and economic indicators, showcasing the importance of accuracy and reliability in data collection, diving into the transformation phase where raw data is refined and structured, highlighting techniques such as data cleaning, normalizing, and aggregation, emphasizing the significance of data integrity and generating actionable insights. From a visualization standpoint, we're looking to illustrate the power of data visualizations in conveying complex financial information. We want to showcase things such as tools for charts and graphs and dashboards. We want to demonstrate how visualizations enhance comprehension and decision-making. Our live demo will be focused mainly on Copilot for Excel and Copilot for Power BI, but we'll also be focusing on communication towards for the executives and managers via other Copilots such as Outlook, Teams, and PowerPoint. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Christina. So as mentioned, we're going to be walking through the day in the life of a financial analyst. And note that while my name is Nick, I'm not at all a financial analyst, but I know enough to get my hands dirty with data. And Christina is going to be playing, well, she's going to be playing the part of Christina, a data analyst. So Nick has some work ahead of him. At 8 a.m., he receives an email from his boss asking for some updates to the financials to prepare for an executive meeting. He's going to be working across Excel, Word, Outlook, and PowerPoint while receiving additional data insights from the reports that Christina is going to provide. So let's dive in. So here it is, 8 a.m. Nick receives a very long email from his manager asking for some updated financials by the end of the day. So what I'm going to show you here is you can see that Nick has received an email from Megan, his manager, and she's politely asked him if he could put some reporting together by the end of the day to support the executive team. And she used that typical see below. So, it's up to me to review this thread. As you can see, the thread has multiple back and forths, and I'm sure you've had an email that's probably much longer than this. And by the way, I created this sample thread from Copilot. So Copilot can do even more things to help you out, even creating demos. But it does take time to read through the emails and find the necessary information. And so what I'm highlighting here is that I used the summary by Copilot to produce a generative AI summarized paragraph to tell me exactly what was in the email. So at this point, I've gone ahead and I used the Copilot button to draft a response to Megan. So you see here, I'm putting in, it's really just a short sentence here that I'm putting in. You could get extremely complex with these prompts. Some tips for prompting in Outlook would be to use bulleted list to convey the thoughts and ideas that you're trying to get across in the email. But in this sample, I'm just going to produce a short sentence explaining to Copilot what I would like. Now you see this drop down here as well. We can choose tones. We can choose neutral, professional, casual. We can also choose the duration of the email. So in this case, I chose medium. But I could have chosen short, long. I could have even made it a poem if I wanted to. Now, I'm probably not doing it justice, as I probably could have responded quickly to my manager, letting her know that, yes, absolutely, I'll try to have this done by the end of the day, but that just wouldn't make a great demo for Copilot. So here it's gone, and it's completed the draft. Now I'm going to trust, but I'm going to verify the information inside this drafted email to make sure that it represents the information that I'm trying to convey to my manager. And while I did provide only a short sentence, Copilot has taken that sentence and expanded it into a medium-sized draft email that I can use to send to my manager. So now I've sent my manager confirming that, yes, I'm going to do my best to have this done on time. I've gone through a couple of meetings. I maybe had a cup of coffee, talked to some colleagues at the water cooler, and now it's 9:30 a.m. and I need to get some data done inside of Excel. So what we're going to be doing is looking at a typical financial sample. As I mentioned earlier, I downloaded this from the learn.microsoft.com website to look at the latest values for some units sold, cost of good, and use Copilot to create the additional columns that I need to produce my financial report. So here, what I'm showing you is how Copilot can be accessed in Excel. In the top right corner, you'll see the Copilot button. And when you open that option, you'll see a sidebar that opens up with built-in prompts and options. Now, what I've entered here is a prompt to create a gross sales column. You'll notice that I did not have to specify the formula. I didn't even specify the column header. I just named the column and said, or just asked it literally to create a gross sales column. So Copilot in Excel understands my natural language. It knows how to calculate gross sales by multiplying the units sold by the sale price. And in a second here, you're also going to notice that it takes care of formatting for me as well. Give it just a second here to complete. And there you have it. So I have the formula. It's units sold by the sale price. And then I can even ask it to explain the formula. And you'll notice it explains the formula and then also expresses how it's put the format in the way that I need it. So this is a currency value with 2 decimal places. So the next step is I'm going to need to add a column for profit. And I know this is achieved by subtracting the cost of goods from the gross sales column, but let's see if Copilot can understand. So in this example, Copilot is taking a little bit longer than usual to produce the result. A few factors to keep in mind when generating formulas in Excel is if your formula involves complex calculations or references a large number of cells, it might take a little bit longer for Copilot to process and generate the new column. Copilot works well even with large Excel tables. However, for very large tables, especially those with extensive data, it may take more time, sometimes more than 30 seconds for Copilot to respond. And Copilot's using artificial intelligence to understand your request and generate a formula. So the processing time depends on the complexity of the task at hand and the amount of data involved. But you can see it didn't take too long to generate the result that I needed. And again, it produced it in a currency value with 2 decimal places. So not only did it understand the formula that I needed to generate, but it also understood what type of data needs to be represented in that column. So now I have my gross sales and profit column. And at this point, I need a profit margin column to round things out. So you'll notice again, I've not yet provided it with any column names, nor did I explain any formulas. I just used natural language to instruct Copilot on providing me with the typical financial sales values. Copilot in Excel understands the way Excel works, how data is formulated, and the large language models have a plethora of insight into the financial analysis and other industry domains, which gives it the knowledge to understand what I mean when I talk about gross sales, profit, margins, and more. So again, you can see I have the option to explain the formula. It does a great job explaining the formula, producing the formula, and of course I have the choice here whether or not I'd like to add that column. So it looks good to me. I validated these behind the scenes, so I know these values are correct. So again, trust but verify. So now we have a profit margin. And what I'd like to do here is highlight all the values that are less than 35% for my profit margin column. This is where I get really excited about Copilot in Excel, because traditionally I've struggled with conditional formatting, just trying to get it right, understanding how it applies to the columns and the rows. Can be a challenge for somebody who doesn't live in conditional formatting every day. So you can see that Copilot has performed the necessary conditional formatting to highlight all values. And from my quick overview, it looks like it's accurate. I can see that all values under 35% have been highlighted, but that's not enough. I need to create a flag now to flag all rows that are underperforming. So the last column here that I'm going to add is to create a column that I can flag all of the rows that are underperforming. This is going to make it easier for me to create pivot tables and charts down the road should I need to flag those underperforming products. And using Copilot makes it extremely easy to create this type of formula. In just a second here, you're going to see that it will create an if statement for me, which is how I would typically create a flag for a row if I need to measure that across several different values. So give it just a second here, and there it is. So it produced a really nice if statement that I can follow along. Of course, I can ask it to explain, and then it shows you the value, and I'm going to go ahead and choose to insert this column. So the final Copilot magic that I'm about to show you is the built-in prompts. So you can see we have the data insights button right here, and this is just one of the few default prompts that come out of the box with your Copilot prompt. So after a short bit of time for Copilot orchestration to gather the details and formulate some reports that will make sense, it's offering me the cost of goods insights, but that's not exactly what I want. So there's an easy button for that. As soon as the result is done generating, I'm going to go ahead and click the button down at the bottom that says add all insights to grid. Now what this does is it takes all of the available insights for this file and puts them to a new sheet. And you can see if I scroll through the data here, you'll notice that all of the tables have the elements added to them. And then at the bottom of this sheet, we have the actual data that supports those charts. So I have the data that I can review it, make sure it's accurate, I can validate it, and then I have these nice charts that were already created for me. So far, so good, but I'm just not really liking the idea of presenting a boring Excel file in a financial meeting with my leadership. So I kind of panic a little bit, and I'm going to give Christina a phone call to ask for some help in making my report a little bit more dynamic. So at 10 a.m., I pick up the phone. I contact Christina. We have a short discussion to talk about my requirements for the meeting. She sighs, but pleasantly reminds me that she has other things to do. And so we get off, and it's a very short and brief call. I spit out a lot of information to her. And so Christina's going to show you how she's utilized Copilot in Teams to get that information.
All right, thank you, Nick. So looks like I will, take control here. All right, so Nick contacts me and we have a meeting. And our Teams meeting is great because we've actually recorded the meeting. So now I'm able to go into recaps and check and see some of the things that we talked about. And the reason why I feel this is so important is because I like to backtrack to my notes, and this is the best way to do it. So I'm like, well, when did Nick need that report by? Just want to double check. I took some notes, but I know Copilot has just picked up on it. So it'll actually describe to me now that Nick did not specify an exact deadline, but the report is just needed by the end of the day. So like, okay, great. Now let's double check. What were the requirements again? I want to make sure I have this right. So Copilot again, we can ask questions of the data that came out of the meeting and the recording and the transcripts, and we get lots of good summarizations here from these notes. So Copilot is now telling me that there's a request to create visualizations and live updates for data for an executive meeting for finance. And we're going to be using PowerBI and Copilot to analyze that data and send and share that with Nick. And then we need to make sure, again, it's reminding me to finish the report by the end of the day. So now I have all of my information. And what I'm going to do now is from this meeting, he's also provided me with an attachment of the Excel file that was worked on just recently, as you saw the process. Now I've got that Excel file in my hand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Excel file and I'm going to save it to my OneDrive so that I can take that information to start to build my report. So let's see how that works in action. So it's now 11 a.m. and now I'm going to be starting my development work for Nick. And I'm going to be asking Copilot a series of questions and starting off with the data source, of course, that we're pulling in, then creating those visuals and insights so that Nick can explore this from a consumer point of view. I could say consumer and viewer. Okay, so let's get started here. So I'm going to open up Power BI service, which is app.powerbi.com for anyone that doesn't know. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to click on New Report. Now we have a new preview where we can actually pull in Excel files directly. So I'm going to pull the one that's from my OneDrive that Nick had just given me that I had recently saved. And by doing so, it's going to allow me to create a semantic model. So first I'm going to go into my folder here. I'm going to get my finance demo. I'm going to select it. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to load this into Power BI service. So sometimes, depending on how much data is there, it might take a slightly bit of time, but not much. I'm going to choose the workbook that I want, which is the financials workbook as the sample. And now you can see what Nick has worked on that I'm going to be taking now into Power BI. So we're going to prepare the data, load the data, finish this up. And once we do, that gets moved over into a report scenario now, where you can actually see how I can start to build, start to build out reports. So let's just give this a minute to load as it's going through the process here. This is a nice financial data set, very easy to walk through. Now you can see that there's the financial data set. So now I have it directly in Power BI service. Now next what we're going to do is we're going to look at this from another perspective. Excuse me. So now what we're going to do is see how we start to build a report if, say, that information, that semantic model I just pulled in is already available to us in the workspace. So I'm going to choose a new report. I'm going to go and pick a published semantic model. So if you already have a few data sets that are already in your workspace, you can choose one randomly and use that and start using Copilot. So we're going to create a blank report. The semantic model is going to be pulled in. This one is transformed and cleaned up. I'm going to click on the Copilot button, and this is going to start our process to using the assistant here. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is I want to see what is in my data set. I'd like to know. I want to understand the data because this was given to me by Nick, and maybe I didn't have a lot of background in this information. I would need to know more. So what I want to do now is I want to ask the Copilot, and now there's an assistant where there's a little sparkle. We have a list of out-of-the-box prompts. So I chose what is in my data set. And what that provides me is a listing of, well, I shouldn't say listing, a paragraph of information about what is in this data set. It's really an overview. It's not meant to be extremely detailed, but just to give you enough information to understand what's in the data set and what's of value in that data set for reporting purposes. So it can be, so some things that we want to look at here is this is an overview of company sales, operating expenses, and planning data segmented by various factors such as products, channels, customer segments, and geography. And now it says what it can be used by. So if you're looking at this paragraph here that Copilot's produced, it's saying it can be used to analyze and visualize business performance, identify trends, and make informed decisions. And for instance, it can help in understanding how sales and profits vary across different countries, products, or customer segments, and how they can compare to budget and forecast. This can aid in strategic planning, budgeting, and performance management. And that's exactly what we're looking to do today. That's exactly what Nick's manager has asked for. And now we're going to make the visualizations of this report a reality. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to see what is Copilot going to provide us. We want to see what is the suggested content for this report. And you can get it from either here where it says, let's create a report at the top. And then you also can use that little sparkle on the bottom in the chat area to also pull up those same out-of-the-box prompts. But what we're going to do now is we're just going to click it from the top here. We're going to suggest the content, and then we're going to see 4 different categories. This is what Copilot gives you as a default. So it scans the data, it understands what the data is, and then it starts to formulate against the data model, which is those relationships between the data. You can create a report, and it gives you a description of the report, and you also have the option to edit. So what we're looking at here is a report of a sales performance analysis. Now it's also showing a title and it's showing some slicer views. So this is how you can filter the data. So Copilot will automatically give you a way to filter data directly by choosing the most important segments here, such as channel and product. So we're looking at beanbags, for instance, but you can also select all and look at everything together. Now, it also provides you with, out of the box, several card views. So the card views are the 3 views at the top. So some of gross sales, some of net sales, profit, and there could be 4. Typically, it's like usually 4 to 6, like is usually the max, but typically it's 3 to 4. And then we also have a series of different types of visualizations underneath that. Typically, it's about 6, and it's usually it's formatted according to whatever the data is. So if you had something that was just strictly about countries, then it would pull a map up. But depending on what it is, it will just identify the data and provide a visualization that the system feels would be great for you. Now, the great thing about this is you can still edit this in any way that you want to. Now, to continue to move forward, we're going to talk about how we edit the text. So we looked at sales performance analysis, but maybe we don't like exactly what's been written here and we want to change it to our own. So we're going to click on that little pencil button. And what that's going to do is that's going to provide us with information to take that data into the prompt and then customize it. So we're going to take out gross sales. I don't want to need that right now. Say I just want just the net sales and the profit margins. And I don't really need channels and customer segments. I think that those 2 are not necessary for this particular report. So what's going to happen now is that the system is going to start to churn and pull in the right information. So we've got inputs and we've got outputs. And what typically happens here is the input comes through an orchestrator. It goes into Microsoft Graph. So a little bit on the orchestration side. It's taking whatever data you have access to. It goes through the large language model and then brings it back in as an output. So depending on where the information is coming from, we made a more of a custom request. So sometimes there's a processing time involved. It all depends on what you're asking for. But if you've noticed now, this version of the report has a little less information than the original report that we had because I took a few things out. So now it's really taking a deeper focus on the items that I have asked for. Now, if we continue, we're going to also look at how we edit a visualization. Okay, because what's really important to know is Copilot creates the visualizations for you, but you may not always like Copilot's suggestions. So you can easily highlight and change the visualizations manually in any way you want to. We're going to talk about some of the Copilot limitations as well, so you can understand more of where this comes from, but you can easily change out the data values or anything else you want to within the data visualization so that you have more of a custom feel. Because remember, these are considered suggestions. So it's always important that we stress, please review whatever Copilot provides to you and make the necessary changes if needed. Now, continuing on, we're going to talk about how to create something that's a little bit more customizable to you. What we have is something called create a page that shows. It's in the main part of the Copilot. It's under the suggest content for this report. So it's another way for you to ask for a particular report. And the way this can be done is in a few different ways. So what we're going to look at here is I'm going to ask for products. And it's a very vague response. And Copilot wants more information, wants me to ask for more. So I'm going to say, I want it for gross sales and net sales and a date. And by doing that, it actually gives me a report that makes more sense. It's considered a sales overview. So now you can see, okay, I have my gross sales here. That's in the top card view. I have my net sales. I still have products up in the slicer in the top right-hand corner, so I can always filter that. And then I have a series of different visualizations of combinations in the relationship model that we have of dates and products and sales. So now you can easily see how the Copilot can correlate just with a few words, a full report. Now, to continue, we're going to talk about more of a custom description that is more, think about just natural language and how you would ask a question, not just give me products, sales, literally gross sales, net profit. No, we're going to actually ask a question where Copilot has to decipher synonyms for words to be able to give a good report. So what I'm doing now is I'm asking Copilot specifically, create a page to analyze the sales amount, revenue, and profit margin of different product categories and subcategories over time and across regions. So I'm not saying specifically date, I'm not saying year, I'm just saying over time. I'm just saying region, I'm not saying countries. So it is important for you to have the right information in place, but you can still use words that you would normally use in everyday language to ask questions. So in this situation, because it does match up with a lot of the data that I have, I was able to get a good response and I was able to get a good sales analysis report off of it. So it's definitely very functional in that sense. So now let's take a look at summarizing the visuals on the page. We need to understand more. Where's Copilot getting this information? Can you explain a little bit more about why we have the visuals that we have on this particular page? So the option is available in that sparkle below, where you click on that, and then you can see the main prompts, and that the summarize visuals is the last prompt. What you see here is a listing of descriptions of the visuals with numbers attached too. So if you wanted to actually click on a number, you can actually go and see the visuals, or if there's several visuals that might be sharing some of the same data, there'll be a few numbers that are after each paragraph. So this is giving you some better insights, but it's providing the information in natural language to talk about different trends that might be happening with the data. What is increasing? What is decreasing? The dates that things are happening, the products that are highlighted in some way. All of that is there for you in a summarized visual. But what we can also say to this is that this is information that now Nick can process when he's going through and using this information to help with creating Word documents, emails, and PowerPoint. Those are the main areas that we're focusing on today. So there could be aspects of the visualization that he can pull when he goes into our viewer side to help with his information that's needed for management and executives when we have that briefing. So to continue, we're going to talk a little bit more about other ways to get to get summarizations of visualizations. So we're going to be looking at something called narratives, also been called smart narratives. It's been around for a little while, but now we've added a Copilot feature to it to add for more suggested content to help us to be able to use it in other ways. So what I'm going to show you here. Yeah, and it looks like, yeah, there we go. What I'm going to show you here is we're going to take away some visualizations and we're going to add in the smart narrative visual. And this gives you options for things like get executive summary, what we're going to look at right now, answer likely questions from leadership, create a bullet list, and you can also ask custom questions. You also have the option to see I clicked on the current page there. You can select all, so you can get a report on all visualizations in all pages, or you can go each individual and choose items. So it can be individual visualizations or full pages. So in this situation, I'm just going to choose a couple so we can see what happens. And now I'm going to ask, what are the likely questions to be asked by leadership? This may be very important for Nick as he goes into his meeting with his manager. What questions do you think they might ask? Let me be prepared. So now you have the questions that will come up, and this usually takes a little bit of time. It's just going to do its little processing. We're going to actually just quickly evaluate some of the questions that could come up. What is the gross sales performance by channel? Which product delivers the highest net sales? What are the highest contributing factors? What's the actual spend? What are the products delivering at the highest net sales? It just overall. And then you can click into these and you can actually go to the visualization for whatever the paragraph is mentioning. So here we're highlighting that. And you can jump back and forth between pages to do so. Now, the last question I'm going to ask, and this could be interesting for documents or PowerPoints, is what about a table of contents for this report and containing a brief description of what each page is about? I just want to know what the pages are about. Maybe I don't want to know about all the different trends, but can you just explain what's sales analysis? What's the expense analysis? What's the regional sales performance? What's the actual forecast versus actuals? What does that mean to me? And there might be people in the room with you in that meeting that just need a little bit more of just basic details and overview. So if you can see sales analysis, forecast versus actual, sum of net sales, sum of discount by date and product, it's actually showing me a description. And then I can click into those descriptions to see what visualizations are being highlighted from this table of contents. And from here, I can just jump from page to page to see those visualizations. And then I can always just jump back. So now I can see how is this all, how is it all connected? So I'm going to look at this one. Okay, sum of discount by date. Let's see what that's all about. And you can just finally get yourself some answers towards this table of contents and what it means. Now to continue, the most important thing is, now that I built my reports And now that I have my summarization, I have everything I need to send to Nick. Now I need to actually send this over. So here's what we would do next. So all I want to do is save this and share, and it's so easy to do here. Now this is just from a Power BI standpoint. All we have to do is just save this file. This file can be saved into your workspace and easily shared. And with Microsoft, there's different ways of doing things because you have different types of menu options, and some have similar values. So you can go to the read view, and then you can just go in and look as a viewer, and you can also share the document that way. And the way this works is all you have to do is put in your coworker's name, the person you want to send it to. So I'm going to send this to Nick. So I'm going to look for his name, and I'm going to send him. It can be either an email, a link, a Teams chat, even PowerPoint you can embed. So we're going to send this over to Nick now so he has it. Now, there are other aspects to this too. So if, say, you're in a workspace and all you want to do is quickly send a report that you've already created previously, there's a finance report. I can click on the little share button on the side, and there it is. So now all I have to do is just put Nick's name back in again, and I can get that report sent out to him so that he can get his work done as a viewer/consumer of the report, so he can pull the data he needs to get that information over to his manager. So what I'm going to also talk about, and this is just really brief, is about the considerations and limitations that we currently have with Power BI Copilot today. Now, as we continue to work through this, more and more will be developed, but we are currently in a public preview state right now. So that means that any kind of visuals that are created, so that being the first bullet point, you can't tell the Copilot on what visuals to create just yet. Copilot can't modify the visuals after they've been generated. That's why I showed you the manual view. So you're still getting all the suggestions in, but it is also something that you should be looking at very closely to make any adjustments. Copilot can't add filters or set slicers. So if you are specifying them in a prompt, just be careful that it only will provide what it has out of the box, and you can adjust it. And then also Copilot can't make layout changes. So you can't resize visuals or change anything. And remember, that's all a manual process right now. They just provide you the kind of the foundation to work off of. And then also Copilot can't understand complex intent. So it's important for you to make sure you you frame it in the correct way so that the questions that you asked are very much coordinated with the data set. So this one here is generate a report to show incidents by team, incident type, owner of the incident, and do this only for 30 days. This prompt is complex, and Copilot will probably generate irrelevant visuals because of the possibilities of some things that may not match up with the data or relationship. So it's always important to make sure you ask questions. If you don't get the right prompt, what I would suggest to you is ask the question again and maybe ask it in a different way. And that's with any one of our chatbots here. We always suggest that. And then Copilot doesn't produce a message for the skills that it doesn't support. So if you're asking Copilot to edit a slicer, it won't complete the instructions successfully. That will eventually change. We are still in the process, so it'll usually tell you when it can't so that you can make other adjustments, and then sometimes it's still in development, so just keep that in mind. But over the most part, basic reporting is handled very well through Copilot, as you saw in these descriptions here. But we're going to leave Q&A at the end too. I'd be happy to answer more questions on that side. So with that, I'm going to hand this back over to Nick because now he has received the report. So Nick, back to you.
Thanks, Christina. That was amazing. And for those of you who maybe haven't tried Power BI, if you often find yourself in an Excel spreadsheet that has more than one sheet on it, you should definitely check out Power BI. It doesn't take that long to learn. It's very similar if you understand, relationships between the data, and if you're a big fan of formatting data correctly, Power BI is definitely the place for you. So I'd encourage you to check it out and learn it. It will definitely upskill your reporting capabilities. So now it's 2 p.m. And if I know Nick, he is suffering heavily from food coma. So Nick's had a late lunch. He does see the report link came through from Christina, but he has some questions. So Nick gives Christina a call, but she doesn't answer. It's probably because she's sick of Nick calling and asking for help. So Nick sees that there is a Copilot button in Power BI, and he starts to discover some more insights in addition to what Christina has already provided inside the report visuals. So what you're witnessing here is a very rich and detailed report with 4 different views: sales analysis, expense analysis, regional sales performance, and forecast and visuals. So I, as a report consumer, am now going to go ahead and use some of the built-in prompts. using what Christina has taught me is called the sparkle icon. I had not known that until I started working with Christina. So that's the sparkle, everybody. Refer to it by its official name. So what I've done is I've used the sparkle. I've asked it in this case to summarize the visuals on the page. But what I'm going to be actually going through in this video is for each one of the pages, I'm going through and performing the same operation. I'm summarizing the visuals, creating an executive summary, and then bulleted list of insights. Now I'm pasting it to a Word document here, and this is what I call the magic of iteration. So we've started with an Excel spreadsheet. I've given that to Christina. She's taken that Excel spreadsheet and she's using the power of Power BI with Copilot in Power BI to doctor up that spreadsheet and make it look what I call the fancy reports. And now I'm taking that data and I'm dumping it into a Word document. Now I'm not going to share this Word document out. This Word document is going to be pretty ugly. It's just used for me to dump a bunch of raw data from the output of this report and the insights to a format that I can then iterate on, where I'm going to take this Word file and I'm going to generate a PowerPoint presentation for it. So again, I'm just doing a data dump here, grabbing all of the details from the Copilot built-in prompts and just throwing it into Word for a big mix of financial information. So not much more to see on this one. I'm going to skip over to the next. So I've had a few meetings, got caught up on my emails, my food coma was finally over, but I'm starting to panic because I don't have my presentation ready for Megan. She wanted it by end of day. I know she's pretty flexible, but I definitely get a lot more appreciation when I get to work to her when she needs it. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do here is it's going to happen fairly quick, but this is where it all comes together. So as you can see, I'm going to utilize another built-in prompt from Copilot, which is to create a presentation from file. So you don't see my file there, and that's because I literally just completed finishing it. It hasn't fully been indexed to show up in my drop-down list, but I wanted to highlight that you can actually take the URL from your Office portal and paste it into your prompts, and so Copilot knows exactly where to get that file from. So Copilot right now is combing over the data. It's generating a plan of action. And it's also, a few things that I wanted to note here is that I get asked quite a bit by customers if PowerPoint can take it, if Copilot in PowerPoint can take advantage of a template. And that's exactly what I've done here. You saw the prompt there where it let me know that these slides are going to get deleted, asked me if I wanted to create a draft. I said, go ahead, do it. And so as long as I start with a template, Copilot in PowerPoint will adhere to that template. So you can use your own company templates to generate slides that match your organizational style and elegance. Note that it's also building out the outline for the presentation that I'm sharing with you. So this helps to understand the flow of the slides that Copilot is creating for you. And I don't know if you caught it there, but this is my favorite piece of PowerPoint Copilot magic, is that it actually puts the speaker notes in there for me. So it's generated about 20 slides. They all look pretty good. Most cases, this is going to look like a final draft for your first draft. You can see the Copilot notes there. It has the original content that was taken from the Word document, and it's generated this beautiful presentation that I can then hand off to Megan and let her have her executive presentation with this. So she has everything she needs. She has all the financial details. She has the notes to talk about it. She has the slides. We'll give her the Power BI report. We'll give her the raw Excel data. So she has everything she needs to have a successful executive meeting. So at this point, it's 5 p.m. We've completed our tasks for the day. Nick can get out on time. I suspect Christina left early because I called her like 4 or 5 times after and she never answered. Maybe she's going to a late lunch because I put her to task in the early part of the afternoon. And so with that, that's the end of our demo portion. Before we dive into the Q&A, I just want to remind you again that this was just the second in 8 sessions for our Copilot for Microsoft 365 Starter Series presentations. The link in the middle of the screen will take you to the blog that has all 8 sessions listed. Each session will be recorded and posted so that you can watch any that you may not be able to attend. The sessions are running weekly on Mondays all the way through the end of April, and we have many subject matter experts joining to showcase other use cases that you may be interested for Copilot in Microsoft 365. The next steps would be to reach out to your account teams, whether you have Copilot or not. We'd like you to try it out, talk to your account teams, find out where it might benefit your organization. There's tons of use cases that we can discuss. Also sign up for the upcoming webinars. Like I mentioned, we have at least 6 more going through the end of April. And then of course, spread the word about the series. We love having you and hosting you, and we hope that you'll join us for future sessions. So with that, I'm going to leave it on this screen. Here's some resources that you can click through to learn more about Copilot and Microsoft 365. And we're just going to dive right into the Q&A. Christina, you ready for Q&A questions? I see some Power BI ones up here.
Yeah. If actually, if we want to start from the beginning here.
Yeah, we'll start at the top of the list.
Yeah, it just says just now. From Ben, can Copilot PowerPoint use company branded presentation templated decks? Now, we have used templates before and use them with like what you had just shown. Is there anything more you want to add to that, Nick? Because I think that is a definite yes.
Yeah, it's a definite yes. And maybe he asked that just before I presented it. But yeah, as long as you start with your template, when you use Copilot to create additional content, it will adhere to the template that you have open.
Okay. And we have a question here just regarding our training and links, which we have here in the chat. I believe we're sharing that information out.
Yep, you should see right there on the screen.
Yep. And then the next one here is the Excel spreadsheet need to be converted to a table to use Copilot.
Yes, it has to be in table format. And I really appreciate you asking that question because it's extremely important. One of the reasons for that is because, Copilot uses the, it's an Office specific language type to do all the formulas and the formatting and everything. So it's extremely important to have it in table format because table format is going to force you to be consistent with your data types. That way you won't be mixing strings with integers or non-numerical values with a numerical column. If you have that all mixed up there, then it's a lot harder for Copilot to understand your data and know what to do with it. So starting off with a table format is a requirement for Copilot, and it's also just a good habit to use to keep your data clean and so that you don't have those mixed data types.
The next question we have here is about Power BI Copilot. So I'll take this one regarding creating specific visuals within a report instead of the entire report. So that was one of our limitations that we have. The only way to create specific visualizations using any Copilot functionality would be our Q&A synonym process. So we do have something available. It's called the Q&A visual, where you can actually attach the visual into the report and ask in natural language what you'd like as a visualization, and then it will appear. Directly from the Copilot Assistant, it does not work that way. It only works on the individual visualizations. So if, I believe if there's anyone here that's looking for more Power BI Copilot information, that might be something I could just speak to across the scene and just to see if we can share more links. But that's how it's done. Next one here, can you do this from Power BI Desktop, or does it have to be Power BI Service? That question, yes, this is only able to be done in Power BI Service. We do not have a full Copilot Assistant in Power BI Desktop right now. What we do have is just visualizations that are available that have some Copilot functionality in it, but not the full assistant. Someone's asking about the sample Excel file, which is in Microsoft Docs. I think, Nick, you might want to just take that one aside.
Yep. Yeah, okay. I plugged a link into that question, so the answer is there, but it's also really easy if you just search for financial sample or Excel financial sample. It should show up as one of the top results. It's on the learn.microsoft.com website.
Okay. All right, great. So then the next one is, a lot of times we hear from Bank DA team that often data in a raw format, that's how you're receiving it, and they need help making sense of the data. Is there a use case where we can be made using Copilot? So Copilot will read any data. As far as transforming data, what I would suggest is we also have another tool. It's Copilot for Data Factory, and it's really Copilot for data flows, which actually allows you to do data transformations. So if that's something you're interested in, I believe we have our contact information for people to contact us afterwards. I'm not 100%
I believe
sure,
there's a form link that'll show up in a. Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to add this information so we can give you more details, let us know. Is this a paid service? Yes, there are two different types of paid services for this. If you're talking about the Copilot side, it does require, if you're actually developing, it's a Power BI Pro license with a premium capacity on your workspace. And maybe, Nick, do you want to talk more about the Microsoft 365 licensing? Because they want to know.
Yes. Yeah. So the the Copilot for Microsoft 365 obviously requires you to have a Microsoft 365 license, but that is an additional license on top of the Microsoft 365 license. So that's the Copilot license. We did just recently announce that we will be making it available to the frontline SKUs as well. So we have it for your E users, and now we're going to be having it for your F users. That's for the frontline SKUs as well. So we're trying to make this available to as many organizations as people on the planet. So expect that this is going to continue to grow and expand in all of the different licensing models that we have available today.
Okay. Another question. Some of them look like they were already answered. Can Copilot help to create a Power Query? And what I can say is that is done through our Copilot for Data Factory. We do have that option available. So yes, we do have it available. There's a question about Excel Copilot. Is anything available in the desktop version, or is it just the web version? Nick, I'll give you this one.
It is available in the desktop version. So you have to be running the current version of the Microsoft Office, the thick client. Obviously, you also have to have a Microsoft Copilot for 365 license, but it works just as well in the web version too. So the demo that I had used, I believe I did it in the thick client, but yes, it's available in both.
Okay. A couple more questions. We have a few more minutes. Copilot for Data Factory, is that included? And I won't go into the actual company name, but Copilot for Data Factory is also something where you would need to have a Power BI Pro license and also a premium capacity on your workspace. So it's something where you need a premium capacity P1 and higher, or if you are familiar with Microsoft Fabric, an F64 higher license. So that's something else that we probably would want to take offline with you so we can show you our licensing structure for Data Factory. And Copilot for Data Factory and Copilot for Power BI are all within that same family of licensing. Anything in the Microsoft 365 is, as Nick has already mentioned, is a different license. And I have another one here about, does Microsoft have any specific use cases for the pharma industry? And actually, I am in the pharma industry. We do, but it's also something we'd have to take offline. We do have some use cases out there that we can look further into. Some of the specifics are, I know on the Power BI side, but if you're looking also for the Microsoft 365 use cases for this, let us know which ones you'd like. Yes, slides will be available. And yeah, I don't see anything else. Let me see if I just missed any. The source info on the Excel, is it required to move to Power BI, and why? The sources for Power BI don't necessarily have to be Excel or CSV. I know I showed you previews of that. You can bring in data sources from other areas too, many other. I mean, we have a lot of different connectors. We have hundreds of connectors going to different types of databases and clouds and just all different types of formats and files. So it's not really sticking to just this one source, but we used Excel so we can show a basic structure of how you can use Microsoft 365 Copilots and Power BI and how we can interconnect them. I have another question here. Can you speak about the importance of prompts, writing and creating custom prompts, and please add some tips as well? So our custom prompts are really, we have a couple different types of documents, how to properly prompt. We would just like to know if you're interested in learning about Microsoft 365 prompts and Power BI, because they're kind of listed a little bit differently because they're two separate items. So I would probably say we should probably give you some documentation to pull, because it's endless. But what I'd also suggested when it comes to prompts is, first, if you like, you can try starting to use the ones that are out of the box. Like we talked about the Sparkle, and when you click on that, it gives you a listing of all the out of the box prompts. Try those first, and then start to build up your prompts and ask other questions outside of that. It's a good way for you to explore. And then we can provide information to help you with understanding any kind of synonyms that come into play with large language models and how that works. We also have some information about Copilot orchestration too, if that's something of interest to you. Yeah, Copilot doesn't really create Gantt charts. And so that's that, at least on the Power BI side. It is very limited. It does provide a little bit more on the line charts, maps, and bar charts is usually the go-to. do have a lot of the out-of-box features, which I believe in time will get expanded out. Are there any plans for similar webinars about Copilot Studio? I think I might want to bring that question over to Mike, if Mike is available, to give more information about Copilot Studio. I don't have the exact dates on that one. Okay, and then we got just a couple, they keep coming through. We'll take a few more until the end here. Any webinars on Power BI and reference material on multiple spreadsheets? We do have Microsoft Docs that does take care of that, and we do have a good series of webinars. We have resource links here, so anything like this can be brought back with us too, where we can provide more information. Make sure to make some requests to get that. Can Copilot and Power BI use company branded? Okay, we already did that. So let's see if we have any others. New posts. Okay, can we save prompts used to do tasks, and can we use it for future and similar tasks? So on the Power BI side, we do save information, but it's only saved for tracking any kind of, and this is something more of a security issue. We only save, and this is all public knowledge, information in Power BI Copilot, and this applies to the other Copilots, for 30 days, which is used for monitoring what we call tracking for abuse or wrongdoings with the data. So not to say nothing ever goes outside of it, but if bad words are used, or we actually are kind of censoring that material. So that is really the only way that happens, but we don't save any of the data. The data never goes into large language model and never goes outside your Microsoft trust boundaries here. So it's all within our own Azure OpenAI, directly back into our orchestrator, using Microsoft Graph, all within your tenant. Your props, your inputs, your outputs are never leave your data. It never leaves your tenant. So that is nothing to be concerned with. If you are interested in looking more into the orchestration side of Copilot, that's definitely something that we can provide too. So no, they are not officially saved. On the Microsoft 365 side, do you have anything to add to that, Nick, or are we pretty much on the same page there?
So prompt saving. So Excel is not going to save the prompts. It won't have that history of prompts. So like if you reopen the file, it won't show you what you've done last. But in the nature of saving prompts and using them later on down the line, we have what we call Copilot Lab. And so if you do have a really good prompt that you use often, you can save that to Copilot Lab and then share it out with team members. Additionally, this is also the place where you would look to get ideas for prompts for the various products that you use from others who may have done the same thing in your organization, plus a whole slew of just default prompt suggestions that you'll get, and you can sort it through a drop-down based on the product that you use. So yeah, there's absolutely a way to share prompts and save prompts. However, in the product itself, it's not going to keep that prompt history. It'll have the session history while you're using the file, but as soon as you close it and open it, it'll just start over fresh again.
Thank you, Nick. I think that's all we have today for Q&A. Nick, Mike, I think that we are going to wrap up here. So if there's anything else, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And we hope that you have a wonderful day and stay in contact with questions. Keep them coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and just one quick, and I know my PC froze here. This is Mike. For those of you who attended, we do have an ongoing series. So if you go to aka.ms/HLS blog, you can find the links. But the recording from today will be posted later this afternoon, as well as a single standalone invite for next week's session, which will be at the same time. And we're going to be covering clinician managers at that time. In that one, it'll be myself and Jim Warner will be presenting, and we look forward to seeing you. So have a great one, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care.